Janmastami. My name is Pasha McGregor. I'll be meditating this morning. We have our main presenter is Manuel Roberto, and we have a wonderful team of musicians, Bernice Roberto, Unity, and Sakshi Zion. So you're really in for a treat. I think I didn't know what John Mastami was until 5 or 6 years ago when the Robertos uh, did their first such program for New Thought Center. And now it's really become a very cherished tradition for us. And we're so happy that they were still able to say yes, even though we have to operate under some constraints due to the pandemic. So we thank you, those of you in the audience, for wearing your masks. And the people up front, when we're doing our particular function, like right now I'm the facilitator speaking to you, then we can remove our masks because we put in an extra space between us and the nearest member of the audience. But when we're not, like when the musicians are making their music, I will put my mask back on. So that's how the New Thought Board is understanding the way to be Pono with all this. Okay, so originally New Thought Center, well, it evolved from a religious science church, and this is the publication of the religious science organization, actually established by Ernest Holmes in the 1930s. It's called Science of Mind Magazine Guide for Spiritual Living. And for every day of the month, there is an uplifting reading. So I'm going to share that reading. Then we'll have a time for you to reflect, center, meditate. But instead of being silent, it will be backed by harp. So we'll do that for a few minutes and then proceed with our program. This one is titled Inclusion in Action. Most people are perfectly happy being different as long as they know their difference is not perceived as a deficiency. That's a quote from Fern Lebow. While all people have the same origin, no two are alike except in ultimate essence. That quote is from Ernest Holmes. This is today's essay. When I first started learning about science of mind, I loved how the principles empowered me. On the surface, it seemed as if this philosophy was the perfect guide for me to manifest a life I loved. Science of Mind definitely is a guide for personal fulfillment, but the more I studied, the more I began to understand that creating a life I loved was only the first step. Holmes defines love as the self-givingness of spirit to express itself in terms of creation. If I am being an expression of love, I must give of myself into the lives of others. We teach that harmony is concord or agreement in facts, opinions, manners, and interests. To demonstrate harmony, I must be engaged in joint activity in ways that evolve into agreement with people from all cultures, backgrounds, and ways of life. The principle of unity is grounded in the understanding that God and I are one. If every person is a physical expression of the one God, then I must seek and create unity with all the ways God expresses. I am a center of consciousness. I am God in action. Because I have been made in the spiritual image and likeness of God, I realize my consciousness and my choices have an effect on the experience and evolution of all life. The diversity in humanity presents opportunity after opportunity to demonstrate the love, harmony, and unity already within me. And those of you who are here with us this morning in the body, you can repeat after me the affirmation. I seek out ways to demonstrate
I seek out ways to demonstrate
love, harmony, and unity in all my interactions.
love, harmony, and unity in all my interactions.
Thank you. We'll now go into our silence and harp time. Thank you. Here at Kulani Terrace, it isn't really silence, it's often roosters and a motorcycle going. So welcome to the people that just arrived. I love it when we do the meditation and then we manifest more lovely people. So I'm Pasha, I'm facilitator, and Manuel has Manuel and I have discussed the fact that we really we want to allow plenty of time for music since we have these amazing musicians. And so I will try to be not wordy. I do need to say one more thing on the subject of masks, and then I'll keep my mouth shut about it. But they really work best. They're intended to cover both the nose and the mouth. Now, if you find that constricting, I invite you to take a breath break here and there. You're welcome to take a little quick trip to the parking lot and breathe in, take a few deep breaths until you feel fully oxygenated, and then come back. Also, you may notice our musician, Madhavi Infinity. Where's your, can you model it, please? Okay, this is an alternative face covering called a face shield. And if we got, New Thought got them primarily for our presenters and musicians, but we have a few extras. So if you're having trouble finding the mask that really is just right for you, you're welcome to try one of those. Okay, so now it's time for the official first song.
Okay.
Either Namaste Shri Radha.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, this is a traditional song from
G.
India.
G.
Namaste Shri Radhe. All glories or obeisances to Srimati Radharani, who is the consort of Krishna.
Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste Shri Sham, Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste, Namaste Shri Sham. Priyakshuryam Krishna Sahachari Kuru Chaita Meditas Tataham Saradha Tadita Mubata Sangama Sukam Tatashnyanta Kelam Maruda Murari Tvanchamajuse Mamute Kulindi Pulina Vivina Priyayati Namaste Shri Radhe Namaste Shri Sham Namaste Shri Radhe Namaste Namaste Shri Sham. Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste Shri Sham, Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste, Namaste Shri Sham. Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste Shri Sham, Namaste Shri Radhe, Namaste, Namaste Shri Sham.
Namaste, Shri Radhe.
Namaste, namaste.
Look at, I don't know if the live stream people can see it. There's some beautiful offerings have appeared on the table here. Let's see, maybe. So I know that there's no one on the lanai this morning who has never been to New Thought before. But is there anyone who's making their first visit since we resumed having in-person services? Well, Nigel kind of appeared at the end of one. This is your first full visit, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome back. Nice to have you. Okay. Well, I'm just going to do a short reading from one of our New Thought elders who's no longer in his physical body. But when I first met Manuel, we both were serving on the New Thought Board of Trustees with this wonderful man named Morty Breyer. And he was really a Mahatma, a great soul. And he had such a gift with words. So this is how he described New Thought Center. By providing, wait a second, excuse me. I don't want to paraphrase him because he's so good. By providing a loving, accepting, non-judgmental community, we create a sanctuary for the nourishment, development, and evolution of each individual's unique spiritual path. Not only furthers us individually, but by bringing our compassion, insight, and wisdom outward, it benefits those around us, our fellow travelers, our spiritual community, our family, friends, and neighbors, our dear Kailua Kona community, and our world. We aim to treat each other and those around us as sparks of the divine, rays of the Great Spirit,
The mysterious.
Christ conscious and Krishna conscious souls, and Buddhas. I just added the Krishna. We gather here each Sunday morning to help us affirm these views and strengthen our capacity to love and be loved. Thank you for joining this gathering. And I invite anyone who hasn't yet to silence your cell phone, as I am about to do. Okay, normally at this point, we would be passing a microphone around and inviting each of you to state your name and respond to a prompt from the speaker. However, one of our constraints, one of the things we cannot do right now for health reasons is passing objects around. Therefore, we're going to skip over that section, which will give us even more time for music. But we'll just go right to the invitation to share your miracles. If anyone has experienced something in their recent life that felt like a miracle to them, that was a kind of a delightful surprise, changed your view of reality. Anyway, or affirmed something that you've believed, but it made it be more real to you. Anything of that nature. So you're invited to come up and speak into this mic if you have such a sharing. And let's try and keep them, well, not more than a couple of minutes, because we have lots of wonderful music and inspiration ahead from our team here. Okay, so the mic is open.
I could say a couple of words about a really.
You may want to go into the microphone.
I have the microphone here.
She's okay.
I'm okay.
But then you won't be seen.
I won't be seen. Oh, it's
yeah,
okay.
You are. Go ahead.
Okay. So, we've all connected to technology somehow, and boy, so this is a real test to see if you like it or not. And also, it's an opportunity to realize how much is actually there. My mother passed just a few days ago, and I I wasn't. I couldn't go to the funeral. It wasn't recommended. Some spiritual guides had told me that it's best not to go. So we did a lot of things virtual. We had a virtual funeral, and we had. It's pretty wild in California right now, and who were going to come to the service just decided to do it virtual, and so they were also getting the opportunity to appreciate the miracle of being able to connect with each other during this very difficult time. And so I was just wanted to point that out. And of course, we all have some level of appreciation. Even today, here, this service is reaching people who cannot be here in person. During the funeral service of my mother, there were people from all over the world. And she's originally from the island of Guam. And there were several people who were from Guam who were online. People who are from California, people who are from different parts of the United States. So I'd just like to say I'm really grateful for technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernice. That was very, very special. Is there anyone else that would like to share something before we move on? Yes.
we have a cat, Dalai Lama's cat. Dalai Lama's cat. There's a book, 4 books that the cat wrote by a person. And this cat, Dave and Terry gave it to us. And I swear it's a fun living to maintain the earth consciousness and keep on going. This cat is very much taught me to love and play and live as well as work.
Thank you. It's been such a joy to both of us. It just came into our household much. We are so blessed by your very loving cat. Would you like me to introduce you now? Do another song and then I introduce you. Okay. All right. Let's have a song.
Okay. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Haribol, Haribol.
Jai Hari Om.
Now it's my pleasure and honor to officially introduce Manuel. He already was presented with a lei by our lay minister, Patty Wall. Um, Manuel is a flautist, a poet, and a teacher. Along with his wife, Bernice, he is a founding member of the Hawaii Harp Ensemble. Born in Spain, Manuel has traveled extensively throughout the world, studying the musical and spiritual traditions of diverse cultures. He has a deep knowledge of Hinduism, which he has practiced for several decades. He's made, well, in this lifetime, he's made 2 trips to India. Manuel is a longtime member of New Thought Center of Hawaii and a past president of the Board of Trustees. Please help me welcome Manuel and the team for Janmastami.
Jai.
Thank you for the presentation. Just over here a little bit. We are also doing a Facebook live video here. We usually get quite a few people watching on our Facebook live, so I do expect quite a few people are watching on the other channel, although we have here the YouTube channel for New Thoughts. So, but overall, we are expecting over 1,000 people to be watching this right now. So we wanted to make sure that we continue the procedures properly. Anyway, so thank you all for coming to our Janmashtami celebration. In previous years, of course, we had also foodstuffs, which we call prasham, which we distribute at the end of the program. But today we will just proceed according to the procedures. Anyway, this reminds me of the time when we went to India, first time in 2007, and we used to have a max just like that, because we thought that maybe we could catch something in India, so we wanted to make sure. So Bernice and I, we bought some surgical masks, and we put, and I still do, 1 or 2 drops. And I still do. I put, because peppermint oil kills viruses. And also, if you are walking around India, if you have peppermint oil, it's very useful. It's kind of effective. Then you don't have to smell whatever is out there. You're smelling your peppermint, right? Also, since it's a long trip, it's like 20 hours in a plane, we thought, well, planes, they don't have very good air, and there could be all kinds of viruses and stuff. So we put Vaseline in our noses so that any microbes would go through the nose, would be cut by the Vaseline. Also, we used to have backpacks all the time. So we used to put wipes, disinfectant wipes on our backpack. And whenever we touch a doorknob, we would clean it. We were in India, we went to a restaurant, we would clean the doorknob with our wipes, or we would clean our hands or utensils. And so that's what we did. Also make sure that all the bottled water that we drank, all the water was from a bottle, and we would click opening from the bottle. We did all kinds of things like that to protect ourselves. We traveled for several weeks. We didn't get sick at all. And we went to Vrindavan, the birthplace of Krishna. So we had a great time, and we didn't get sick at all. And we had other procedures as well that we follow. And pretty much like what we are doing today here, to make sure we don't catch anything that may be out there. And it really is a real thing that is going on. We have 5 people that we know that have caught this COVID-19. 2 of them were in their 30s. The only thing they experienced was some mild flu symptoms, and they recovered pretty quickly within 2 or 3 days. But of course, they're vegetarian. They don't take any drugs, and they don't drink alcohol or anything. They are very clean people. So within 2 or 3 days, they will just be fine, and they just had like a flu. That's it. So it wasn't nothing. And they went back to work right away. Then we had 2 other people that were in their 60s, friends of ours. I'm talking about people that we know that have got this COVID-19. And 2 people that got it were in their 60s, good health, also vegetarian and follow certain principles, but had some pre-existing condition, and she got quite sick. For 3 weeks she was out, but now she's completely recovered, and there is no trace of that. She's doing just fine. It was like a flu. She said it was like a flu, and it was a bad one, and she really was in bad shape. Her husband got it, but he's in very good health, no pre-existing conditions. In a week, was already up and running. It was just, again, they say it was like a bad flu. And then we had another friend of ours, but he was 74, had pre-existing conditions, a Swami who was a guru, very great guru, very great, amazing personality. And he passed, but he had thousands of disciples all over the world, and he worked very, very hard. He was overworked. I mean, he really, his name is Bhakti Charu Swami, really amazing devotee. And he worked, I mean, he probably didn't sleep any more than 2 or 3 hours a day. He worked so hard, because he had disciples from all over the world. And also, I think he passed because you got to be careful if you ever go into a hospital. Sometimes they may not, the hospitals may do things to you that you may not want them to be done. And I think that's what happened to him. But on the other hand, he probably had some other condition. Also, you got to be careful. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. So it is a real serious threat, a serious thing going on, and you got to take care of yourself. Anyway, so let's move on into the program today, which is about Janmashtami. And what is Janmashtami? Anyway, Janmashtami is the celebration of the birth of Krishna. Krishna is known because he is the speaker of this book called the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God. And there are very beautiful teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe some of you have read it. Maybe some of you know the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Well, let's just talk a little bit about this. What does that have to do with New Thought? Why would I be teaching about the teachings of Krishna of the Bhagavad Gita in a New Thought center? Why was I a member of New Thought? I'm still a member of New Thought. Why was I past president? Murthy Breyer, who brought me here to this New Thought Center 20 years ago, also read the Bhagavad Gita. Because if you trace the origins of New Thought, we will go back all the way to a person named Miguel Servetus. Miguel Servetus, also named Miguel de Villanueva, he's the one who is considered like the father of the Unitarian Church movement, Unity and New Thought. And who was Miguel Servetus? What does that do with Krishna? Well, if you look at the history of Miguel Servetus, his biography, he was a doctor, a medical doctor. He was from Spain, and he went to Paris to study medicine, and he practiced medicine. And Miguel Servetus, he was, besides being a doctor, he was also a writer, and he wrote things that his realizations. And what he saw in his medical practice was that people were here now, and then they would die. And he said, well, what is the difference between this person that is alive and then 1 second later, the person is not there? It's the same body, the same mouth, the same eyes, the same ears, the same nose, the same hands. The body's here, but he's not here. So he concluded that the person that was here, that was no longer here when he was dead, there was a spark of life, a divine force in that person that made that person alive. So he concluded that there is a living divine force all over the universe that makes things alive, that makes things move. And that's what is the difference between a living person or a living entity or a living being and a dead being or something or someone that is not alive. The difference is that there is a spark, a living spark. So he concluded that that living spark, that is divine. That is the divine force which we can call God. And then are us to see that God must be part also of this living force. So he realized that there was a unity of things, Unitarian unity, as we are thinking, New Thought. And that is the origin of the New Thought in terms of that we are all part of that spiritual spark. We all have that divine nature inside of us. Of course, what happened with Servetus is that his ideas, and he published them and he wrote them, and he was Christian. He was a very serious Christian. He believed that Jesus had this divine spark and that he was the Son of God, but he believed that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit were the same. They had the same divine spark. It's just in different features, which in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, there is the impersonal Brahman, there is the Brahman, I mean, when I go into that ocean, I swim every day there. I can feel that energy in there, you know. I know that that ocean is not dead. It's what we call, in India, we call Varuna, the divine force of the ocean. Varuna is alive. In Hawaiian, we know that there is winds that we call kamis, that they are alive. You know, sometimes I'm doing some meditation, just the kami, the wind will come and just carries my face and say, wow, the kami is going through the wind. So there is a divine spark of divinity in that wind. The wind, in India, we call him Vayu. Hanuman is part of that Vayu, the son of Vayu, right? So there is living divine spiritual sparks in nature. That's what in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna calls impersonal Brahman. And also that Brahman can manifest in everyone's heart. And that's why you sometimes in meditation you hear a voice that brings you ideas and concepts and brings you insights into yourself. That voice is what someone like, I don't know if you have heard of Paramahamsa Yogananda. Paramahamsa Yogananda called the Paramatma, and it's also in the Bhagavad Gita, the Paramatma or Super Soul. That's the second manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Paramatma. Okay? Paramatma. So Miguel Servetus, he was from Spain, just like myself. Miguel Servetus saw that, yeah, that is there. That is the Holy Spirit that is in everyone. And then he thought, well, and what about Jesus? So Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that also that spiritual spark that is in the ocean, that is in the wind, that is in the sky, that is in the Paramatma, in everyone's heart, also can manifest, can realize as a being, as a person that can come. They are divine personalities that come from the spiritual sky to help us. That's where we have entities that have come, such as Ram, Lord Ram, or Hanumanji, but also Christ. So he thought Christ was another part of the same. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls that Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the actual person of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So those are the three manifestations of God, and they come in different forms. But they are actually the same divine spark. So he wrote that and he published it. But of course, guess what? That was 1510, 16th century. Some people didn't like that too much. And so the Catholic Church definitely didn't like it. And they were after him, of course, at the time. Remember, this is the times of the Inquisition. So they had some arguments, and this was dangerous. So he went and told Calvin, John Calvin, who was a Christian in Switzerland, said, these are my teachings. And he wrote this book, and Miguel Servetus was very outspoken. He knew that was what the truth was. But John Calvin didn't like it too much. And they had an argument. And John Servetus went to Switzerland, Zurich, and met with John Calvin. And they argued, but John Calvin was in political control of the place, and they killed Miguel Servetus. So Miguel Servetus was actually like a martyr, someone that died for his beliefs, because the other person, John Calvin, didn't like it or disagree. So let me tell you one thing.
He was burned at the stake, right?
He was burned at the stake, yeah, but that's a little bit heavy to say, but that's what happened. He was burned at the stake. So let me tell you one thing. If you are willing to kill someone because they have a different religious idea than you do, don't do it. Why? Because if you want to kill someone because they have a different religious thought that you have, that means that you are wrong. That means your religion is wrong and your concept is wrong. If you want to kill someone because they have a different religious thought, that means that you're wrong. That means John Calvin was wrong. And what did John Calvin believe? That, with Michael Servetus, is that there are three gods. The Holy Trinity, the so-called Holy Trinity. But again, I'm not going to argue with the Catholics and the John Calvins out there. Hey, you want to believe that there is three gods? That's your business. I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to give you love, because that's what religion is about. Religion is about showing love among people. That's what this is all about. That's it. And how do you manifest love? How do you express love? You express love by exchanging food, giving food to one another, exchanging gifts. That's why people give. In other words, giving gifts or taking gifts, receiving gifts. That's why people give. In other words, giving gifts or taking gifts, receiving gifts. That's why people give gifts at Christmas time, for instance. That's where this comes from. It's an exchange of love. And the third one is either revealing your mind or listening to someone revealing their mind. So there is those 6 principles. Those are the fundamentals of love. So, hey, you want to convince somebody about your philosophy? Treat them with love. And if you cannot convince them, accept them. Listen to them. Oh, maybe these guys have something to say about it. So now, the principle that Servetus mentioned earlier, and we discussed that was the most important thing that he mentioned, was that he realized that the difference between a living entity or living person and a dead person or a dead entity is that there is a divine spark, or there is an energy force there that is divine. And the origin of that principle, of the teachings of that Unitarian principle, unity principle, and New Thought principle, is in the Bhagavad Gita, the original. So when you read the Bhagavad Gita, one of the main teachings of the Gita is that there are 2 energy forces. One energy is the material energy, which is made out of matter. Matter can be gross matter or subtle matter, but it's still matter. Matter is composed of 5 different gross material elements: water, earth, air, ether, fire, water. So those material elements compose the material world, and then we have 3 subtle elements: mind, intelligence, ego. All human beings, and also animals as well, they'll have these 8 material elements in their existence. The material elements, they are inferior to the anti-material energies. This is what Krishna is talking about. They are inferior to the anti-material energies because the material elements, they are all being destroyed. They are temporary. They pass away. We are born, we grow up, we become eventually diseased, grow older, and we eventually pass. We die. That means all living beings, including plants, the fish in the ocean, or any animals, the human beings, they all have through these stages of life. And at the end, the material bodies, they go back into the earth. That's what Michael Servetus was finding out. Hey, well, what happened here? The material body is going to disappear, is going to go. But this is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a spiritual spark, which is non-material. And this is what constitutes what is called the anti-material world. Now, scientists are coming into this understanding now. Oh, well, by the way, there is some things that we cannot really demonstrate or understand this way. So there must be particles which are beyond our material senses. In fact, there were 2 Nobel Prizes back in 1957. They got Nobel Prize because they realized that there were anti-particles. In other words, through experimentation. Hey, we are scientists here. I don't really believe in anything. Either I experiment and I prove through experimentation, because I'm into experimentation. I'm into science here. Through experimentation and scientific methods, we can analyze everything and understand that, yes, the material energy is destroyed, but the anti-material particle is not. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that this anti-material particle cannot be destroyed by anything, cannot be withered by the wind, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be cut by a sword or a knife. It's non-destructible. the essence of this anti-material particle is different, in fact, the opposite of the material particle. And what is that? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it is made of 3 elements. The anti-material particle is made out of 3 elements. Sat, Chit, Ananda is eternal. Sat, Chit, full of knowledge. Okay, the material particle is not eternal. The material particle is ignorant. And 3, Ananda, bliss, happiness. That's what we are made out of, happiness. Divine spiritual spark is beautiful, joyful. Why should we be morose about anything? No, we should be joyful. We are alive. We have the life force inside of us. That will make us happy. Once you understand it, it's like, wow, this is great. I'm alive. So Satchitananda, those are the principles that are explained in the Bhagavad Gita. So, if you haven't read it yet, I urge you to read it slowly. We read it every night at home. After our arti, we do about 1 or 2 texts a day. Now that Bernice's mom passed away, she's reading 2 chapters on a continuous basis. We always read this book. It's a very interesting book. It has a lot of knowledge and information about the world, the material world, as well as the spiritual world, and how to deal with this, to live in the world. You know, it's a very, very beautiful. So, how do we get to this realization? Now, how do we get to the realizations that we just discussed right now? Well, the main thing Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you need to approach a spiritual master or a spiritual teacher. It's going to be very difficult for you folks to understand these teachings just on your own. That's why Krishna or God comes to this planet usually as a teacher or a master. And what does the teacher do? A teacher, there is a chant that says, Om Agyanate Mirandasya, Yananjana Shalakaya, Chakshurum Militam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I offer my humble and respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who has forced to open my eyes with torch-like knowledge. Okay, let me see if you understand this point, because you probably have sang a song named, the title is Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace, how great that sound that saved a wretch like me. I was blind, but now I can see. What did the blind man that recovered the sight told the Pharisees? Who was that man? And the blind man said, well, I don't know who that man was. I don't even know his name. I know that I was blind, but now I can see. See what? What we just discussed. That we are not the body. That we are beyond the material conception of these material gross elements. That we are the spirit soul. That's what the blind man saw. That's what Christ instructed him and let him see. That he was not the body, that he was a spirit soul. So, as a general rule, most people, in general, they need a teacher, someone that is going to open their eyes with the torch-like knowledge so that you can see spiritual life. Because otherwise, we are born in the darkness of ignorance. We are born, we are babies, we're just born. And then if you are born, you're like, you can hardly see anything, and you go throughout your life, you still can see anything, because spiritual life, to see this anti-material particle, is not so easy. You need the guidance of a spiritual teacher that is going to guide you. That's why these teachers come. Either could be Jesus Christ, could be Krishna, could be Buddha, could be different teachers that come to this mature world. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever there is a decline of religious principles, then I appear in order to help or save my devotees and destroy the miscreants. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So we were very lucky, actually, ourselves, that a few years ago, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, our divine spiritual master, came to the West back in 1965. Remember the 60s? And then he came all the way from India, from Vrindavan, India, to New York City with $8 in his pocket. That's all he had, $8, and a trunk full of books. Can you imagine that? An old man. He was close to 70 years old. I mean, I'm almost 70 years old. I can imagine going all the way to New York City and doing something like that. Can you imagine how much spiritual power Srila Prabhupada had? Prabhupada had amazing spiritual power. He had so much energy. He was unbelievable. Well, anyway, he came to New York City, and, he just started chanting Hare Krishna in the park. He meets Allen Ginsberg. And then later on, he meets George Harrison. That was George Harrison, my Shiksha guru. And George Harrison, he starts singing with his, guitar and creating these beautiful songs. You may have heard some of his songs, My Sweet Lord, among others. He has an album called All Things Must Pass and things like that. No, Prabhupada was the spiritual teacher of George Harrison. So Prabhupada, basically what he did is just, he instructed us, we were just a group of hippies, people that, were smoking dope and taking all kinds of psychedelics and stuff like that. Hashish, all that stuff, we tried it. But what happened is that, you got to try these things. You know that the mature world is not going to get you very far. So you got to find out. There must be something else somewhere else other than what I'm doing now here today. But if you can find a spiritual teacher that shows you that there is another world out there, once you discover that world, it's like, whoa, this is beyond whatever I can even imagine. It's beyond your mind. And so you give that up. You give that up. It's like, well, who wants to smoke this marijuana? Or alcohol? It doesn't get you very far. It's really, believe me, you try this. And, there are techniques that we follow, certain chanting, certain mantras, certain music that we play that will get you, will raise you up to a level of consciousness where, it's like beyond the mature world. It's like a trip. It's like going on a trip. It's amazing. So that's what happens. If you find a teacher, that teacher will open up your eyes to find that spiritual life, which is beyond whatever you can think of. And therefore, you can get, among other things, the workings of the mind. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, it talks about the different workings of the mind. It says things like, the mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. So controlling the mind is a very important thing. Why? Because the mind is a tool. And if you use it in your favor, you can do anything with the mind. You can conquer anything. You can go anywhere. You can even go to another planet. You can go to other universes. I won't get too much into it because we only have 5 more minutes left here. But don't think that this is the only universe there is. This is not the only universe that we are seeing here. This is a 3-dimensional universe. This is nothing. This is the universe. The reality of the mature world is 3-dimensional, yes. And there is time, because I'm watching the time here. I have 5 more minutes. So this 3-dimensional reality that we live is also measured by time. That's another thing that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna asks him, who are you? When he sees the universal form. Said, Krishna, who are you? And Krishna says, I am time, destroyer of worlds. Which is the same phrase that Robert Oppenheimer said after he saw the first atomic bomb exploding in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And you may have seen that movie called The Day After Trinity, where Robert Oppenheimer, the mastermind of the atomic bomb, he had read the Bhagavad Gita. And when he saw the atomic bomb going off, he said, oh my God. He said, I am time, destroyer of worlds. That's Krishna. That's God. He's time. But what I'm saying is that, yes, this material world is real. This three-dimensional world plus time is where we exist right now. But it's not the only world there is. It's not the only universe there is. There is other universes with other that exist in different dimensions. And if you take any one of those pills that we used to take back in the 60s, you'll know that there are other dimensions other than the dimension that you're looking at right now. That's why we got interested into this. Say, wait a second, did I see this before when I was on tripping on mushrooms? And then you realize, well, yeah. But then you know what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, well, yeah. You can see a little bit of these universes when you trip on those things, but there is more than that. There is so many universes. There are universes that have 4 dimensions, some 10 dimensions, 100 dimensions, 1,000 dimensions. There are things that we cannot even conceive with our minds. But remember, our mind is a very small little mind in a little brain. How can we understand everything? Sometimes I go up to the top of Holwaloa and I look at the sky and I look at the constellations and say, oh my God, this is so incredible, so beautiful, and everything is moving perfectly. All the constellations and the moon and all these beautiful stars, they are moving in perfect unison. And I look at the sunset from my lanai and I can practically time the time of the sunset every day. If I know what time it is, I know because the sunset just set at 6:46 and today is Thursday, so it should be that's the time. In other words, that this universe is like a clock or a watch. You know, even that clock was made by someone. In fact, Queen Bee Adams, right, who is considered the father of New Thought, well, who was he? He was a clockmaker. He used to make clocks, right? Right, who is considered the father of New Thought, well, who was he? He was a clockmaker. He used to make clocks, right? So now a clock is made by someone, and this whole universe is a clock. It is a clock. I'm telling you right now. You know when the tides are coming. You know you can know ahead of time. You can go on the computer and check it out. Oh, when is the you know you can know ahead of time. You can go on the computer and check it out. Oh, when is the high tide? Because I gotta go swimming at the beach and I wanna swim during low tide. Okay, Tuesday, August 15th. The low tide will be at 23 a.m. It's a clock. And are you going to tell me that this clock doesn't have a maker? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen a clock that doesn't have a maker? No. There is a maker. You would be foolish to think that there isn't a maker. Of course there is a maker. The universe has been made by someone. This planet called Gaia was hit thousands of years ago. Hey, this is scientific theory that we teach in the high schools, because I'm also a teacher in the high schools, thanks to Pasha, who got me into that 5 years ago. I said, well, I retired from financial advice, and what should I do? She said, oh, you should go and become a teacher in the with the DOE. So I became a teacher. So I teach science classes. And the current scientific theory is that we teach in the high schools, is that Gaia, about, I think it was like 7 billion years into the existence of Gaia, was hit by another planet, a big planet called Theia. And from that explosion, the moon was created. And also, the scientists say, by magic, it tilted the Earth so that now we have the perfect seasons. Oh, what kind of magic is that? Was that magic, or was it arranged by somebody? Someone actually who is extremely powerful. hit planet Earth in such a way, at such an angle, that it created the perfect seasons. Have you ever seen summer and winter? Have you ever seen spring and fall? No, they all come at the same time, at this specific moment. Was that by design, or was that by luck or chance? There is no chance. What chance? It was design. The universe has been designed. Stop being childish thinking that there is no design. Oh, yeah, let's go play. There is no design. No, there is a design. Our job as scientists is to figure out how it's made, who is behind all of these obeisances, offer our obeisances, and be respectful, because we are very tiny, we are very small, and whoever designed this universe and created these planets and this universe and these constellations, he has tremendous power. And I am going to conclude here by saying one thing. The creator of the universe is extremely powerful. And you know how you can see the power of someone? You know what power is? And I'm going to, sorry if I blow your minds about this, but this is the way it is, guys. Power means that you can control your anger. If you can control your anger, you are infinitely powerful. You are as powerful as the one who threw fire against Gaia and created the perfect seasons. And what did Jesus Christ said in the cross when he was passing? He said, Father, pardon them because they don't know what they do. Looking at them. Now think about that. That is power. You have to be supremely powerful to do that. Not to have any anger in you, to look at the people who are killing you and say, Father, pardon them. They don't know what they do. They are just kids. That's power. And that brings us to, I'm concluding here with the teachings from Servetus and the teachings about not to kill anybody from another religion, okay? Is the teachings of one of my great heroes, of all the heroes in all the religions, and his name is Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur is my great hero. He was born as a Muslim, in a Muslim family. And if you are born in a Muslim family, you were not supposed to change religions. But it happened that his teacher, I'm trying to unite here all the teachings from that I've been discussing earlier. His teacher happened to be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is considered an incarnation of God. That was his teacher, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Gauranga. And he happened to be within the Hindu tradition. He taught him how to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That means that he saw God. He understood what we are talking about, anti-material particles, that he saw God. He understood what we are talking about, anti-material particles, that we are divine spirit, that we are souls, that there is a God. He understood this from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanting this mantra. But the Muslims said, wait a second, you were born a Muslim. You cannot become a Hindu. You cannot chant the Hare Krishna mantra. He said, no, I'm sorry, but my teacher was, is a Hindu. I have to chant this. He says, then you're going to be punished. And he was punished by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. I mean, most people would die after one or two marketplaces, being beaten in a marketplace. He went through 22 of these marketplaces. And then after 22 marketplaces, the guard said, you are still alive after 22 marketplaces. What are we going to do? The Nawal is going to kill us. Our boss is going to kill us because we couldn't kill you. He said, well, if this is going to cause a problem for you, then just throw me into the Ganges and I'll just drown. Then you won't have to be punished by the Nawal. So they just very happily, they threw him into the Ganges. But remember, don't try this at home. Haridas Thakur was a great mystic. He was a great yogi. He was such a great yogi. I mean, he was meeting in 22 marketplaces and he was still alive. He was like, and he was thrown into the very turbulent waters of the Ganges. But by mystic powers, he was floating in the Ganges. And then by floating into the Ganges, he eventually arrived to the shore where the Nawal was sitting. And when the Nawal and the guards saw Haridas Thakur coming out of the water alive, they couldn't believe it. They realized that either he was a great saint, and they were great sinners, so they didn't know what they were doing. And so they immediately offered their obeisances and said, "You are our teacher. Please show us the way." So that is what I want to conclude here with this story of Haridas Thakur. Thank you, Pasha, for inviting us to be here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yay.
That was wonderful. Wow, what a storyteller. So another modification that we have in addition to we don't pass the handheld mic is we don't pass the offering bowl, but we are still very grateful for your offerings. So while our musicians are doing music for us, those of you that are here on the lanai, if you feel so moved, you can come up one at a time and put something in the koa bowl on the little table. If you're part of the online audience, we invite you to visit the New Thought website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com, and you can click the donate button and you will be directed how to do it. So thank you in advance for any kind of contributions that you are willing and able to make today. Go for it, musicians.
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari 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 Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita
Gaura Hari
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita
Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Gaura Hari Hari Gaura Hari
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo
Jai. Hari Hari Bo.
Wow, beautiful. So I'm going to invite Manuel. You don't have to get up. You can just do it from where you're sitting. But please tell us about your online offerings, and if someone hasn't taken advantage of them previously, how they can.
Okay. Well, first of all, for anyone that came, we can give you outside. We do have some of our CDs, but also we have books. You can take a book, no charge. This one is the Perfection of Yoga, so you can have that. And also we have many offerings on YouTube under the Kona Harp Ensemble. You can listen to a lot of our music that way, or go on our Facebook channel under Manuel Roberto or Bernice Roberto. Like this video will be on Facebook for the next few weeks or so. A lot of people will share it and will pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll read the New Thought announcements. They're not quite as extensive as they used to be, but we're doing the best we can. So next Sunday, we will have Julia Fairchild as our guest speaker. Her topic is New Thoughts on Overcoming Racism. Music by Uma Ojeda. The following week, Phil Centers, the CEO or whatever they call it of the Kona Pacific School, will be speaking about the teachings of Rudolf Steiner and music by Marie Claire. We have 2 weekly groups or classes on Mondays, Gentle Yoga with Maria Mann right here on the Lanai. And the drop-in fee, I believe, is $15 to $20. If you come regularly, you get a reduced rate. Thursdays, Davina Mar facilitates the Kona Living Aloha group from 6 to 8. And this week, this doesn't happen every week, but once a month, Davina also offers a program called the Safe Conversations Practice Group. Marie Claire, who's that? The teachings are based on a certain writer, right? Harville Hendricks. And reportedly, it's a very powerful communication tools that can improve all your relationships. So that's this Tuesday, August 11th from 6 to 8. A suggested donation of $10 if you can do it, but come regardless. If you are not already on the mailing list for the New Thought weekly e-newsletter, you can sign up on the website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com. Information about New Thought activities is also shared by way of Facebook and Dolphin Podners. I'd just like to take a minute to say thank you first to our musicians, our presenter, and then the various other people that contributed in some way. We had Brent and Sakshi helping with sound technology, our lay minister, Patty Wall, our bulletin board and sign person, Rob. Terry was our greeter, usher, and behind the scenes, not present here today, we have Nilani Unger, who's doing extra cleaning, and Pomaikai Kulon, that is the webmaster and editor of the newsletter. One volunteer that we didn't get this Sunday, and I'm hoping perhaps one of you may step forward. We like to wipe down and disinfect the chairs and tables after each service. So if you feel inspired to do that, talk to me right after service. Also, I'd like to give people who feel it would be beneficial for them an opportunity to make an early exit, which you can actually use either the south or north lanai if you either have a prior commitment or you want to just be sure you get to your car without having to get too close to other human beings. If it's beneficial for your health, or if you have a prior commitment, you may leave now. Our traditional closing song is Hawaii Aloha, but because of the well-documented hazards of group singing, and because it's so hard not to sing it, we're inviting the musicians to choose a different closing song for us today. Is there anybody who does want to make their exit now before we do that? We kind of save this time for New Thought announcements. Is there a way you can kind of connect it?
It's like a unity related event. It's at unity, but New Thought related.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes, come. We've been getting closer to unity these days. Okay.
Yeah?
Yes, come. We've been getting closer to unity these days.
So next Saturday at Unity of Kona, there's going to be a special workshop. It's called Lemuria Mountaintops of Hawaii. And Native Hawaiian Claire Bajo will be doing a presentation on the ancient connections between ancient Lemuria and Hawaii. And then I myself, with a few musicians, are going to do some sacred chanting music, some kirtan, some Hawaiian chants, some reggae to seal it up. So it's going to be an excellent evening full of divine mystery, secrets, wisdom from both New Age, New Thought sources, as well as Native Hawaiian sources. Some of the stories she grew up with, her grandmother, grandfathers telling her, connecting ancient Hawaii to this ancient mysterious continent known as Lemuria or Mu, similar to Atlantis, right? So if you want to learn more about that, come next Saturday at Unity of Kona. It's going to be a suggested donation. All are welcome. Nobody will be turned away. Of course, if you're not feeling well, please don't show up. We will be also live streaming it so you can watch it from anywhere. It's going to be 6 to 8 p.m. August 15th, Saturday at Unity of Kona. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. So glad to know about that. If you have a flyer, you can put it up on the bulletin board.
No flyer, but it's on Facebook.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Pasha. We'll just be playing. You can just leave if you like.
Haribo,
Haribol, Haribol, Nityai Gaura Haribol. Haribol, Haribol, Nityai Gaura Haribol. Haribol. Gaura Premanandi. We dedicate this service to the glory of Bernice's mom, who passed away just a few days ago, and hope this chanting will help her on her journey. Jai. Thank you all for coming.